The two young men that seemed to be constantly at odds with each other went by the names of Alistair Freeburn Mackenzie, a fire-red Scotsman from Stirling, and Robert Clifford Crawford, the junior, an Englishman from York. Obviously, they both had access to grind from their ancestral past, but instead of using warhammers and claymore swords as in the old days, instead they were using mouth daggers and tongue lashes to whip and stab each other, parrying with platitudes before thrusting their razor-sharp steel wit onto each other, slashing, cutting, conjugation, mainly interspersed with some slightly archaic Shakespearean sentencing, with stumbling subjunctive tense. Neither quite had the eloquence enough to carry off this, but a few Latin phrases interspersed here and there, but they were far too drunk to sound anything more than clumsy lives of Brian with Latin correction lessons. They'd also engaged in pool competitions and opera singing, to name but a couple. They were so competitive, neither would surrender one syllable. And so on it went late into the night. Then they began arm wrestling, and words too much to formulate. And then sort of administered, swapping arms, until of course cheating took over and they started to use both arms to pull one another about. They'd also been thrown out of quite a couple of reputable establishments and restaurants due to their rowdy, noisy behaviour. But they were both still singing by the witching hour, and swayed and staggered from lamppost to lamppost all the way home, berating each other from opposite sides of the street, until the Scotsman, whose face was puce, and his ginger hair seemed to static with electricity on end. The temptation was brought about by the questioning of kilts and those strange little gartered socks and the lack of undergarments. Then the last straw. Crawford told Mackenzie that he came from a dark and pagan land full of raging homosexuals. That did it. They locked arms and horns and began in a death row, wrestling around on the pavement, biting, gorging, thumping. For all it was worth. Until one eventually submitted to a brutal arm lock around the neck, where half Nelson, he slapped the floor again and again, and they both laid back, gasping, breath to breath, exceedingly drunk, battered and blooded. The victor strode victoriously back, with chest puffed out and cheeks red. The Scotsman had won. He peacocked with victory. And the defeated crawled away into the shadows to lick his wounds. However, the winning smile of the victor was soon wiped away as Freeburn walked straight into a scaffolding pole, almost taking the top of his head off, knocking himself clean unconscious and blacking an eye shut in the process. Dazed and drunk and delusional, he managed to crawl against the wall, dragging himself over it onto the patio. Crawling across it, he staggered to his feet, whilst the Englishman, Crawford, tittered and laughed from the shadows like a hyena. He cursed him to be silent, again and again, until he slammed the door behind him. Then steadied himself and charged, racing up the stairs, before suddenly stopping halfway up and then, unfortunately, beginning a descent backwards. Again, faster and faster he came down backwards, crashing through the double glazing, knocking himself unconscious. He sprawled face down onto the concrete of the patio, bleeding like a stuck pig from a gash and a slash across his left hand. Oh, it was only but for his wife's cuckoo clock that he was saved, probably from bleeding to death. Oh, it tweeted again and again, cuckooing into his subconscious, until at 6 o'clock he suddenly jolted awake and screamed a blood-curdling shriek. Oh, passed out again at the sight of the monstrous amount of blood that he'd lost, that was pooling around him. Fortunately, a neighbour had heard the ghastly cry and called an ambulance after looking over the fence and almost passing out themselves. Mackenzie was rushed straight into the surgery, his clothes cut away like some bomb victim. There, his injuries laid bare. Seemed to many very, very superficial. The surgeon looked. I thought this guy had been stabbed. I thought he'd been stabbed. There's no wounds. There's no stab wounds. Just a slash on his hand. A bad slash here. Well, he's lost pints of blood. You sure this man's not inebriated? I can smell him from here. He's panting like a dray horse. That's why he's lost pints of blood. He's thinned it down to almost petrol consistency. Oh, good God. We've rushed in here. You've got us on a red light trauma unit. We've rushed in here. He's got 10 stitches into his hand here. There's nothing wrong with him apart from black and blue where he's run into lampposts or telephone boxes. What in God's name are we doing with a crash crew? We all had to get out of bed for this clown. Well, he's not. There's no stab wounds. There's just one slash wound where he's fallen through some plate glass. We could have done this back in. Stitch him up, and get him back on the ward. I thought his clothing and everything. I thought he'd been stabbed to death with the amount of blood. Well, we've analysed that. It's turned out that he's actually burst a bottle of red wine onto himself. Oh, marvellous. So it's not congealed blood that's in his jumper and things. No, I didn't think so when we cut it away. There's not a scratch on him. No, it appears to be that it's the red wine that somehow he's managed to pop the bottle on there, and oh dear God. So what we've got is a couple of people that have been rolling around in the dust here. One of them's got obviously a bottle of wine inside their coat, and they've been wrestling on the pavement in the witching hour and popped the thing. Apart from a few facial industries, I thought somebody had done his heart rate. Said it was totally out of arrhythmia, isn't it? Well, it turns out now it could be what we thought might be a Hogmanay heart attack. That's why we, jump-started him, stopped and started his heart. I see. So there's no stabbing, no trauma. Just 3 days of revelry, doubtless, at the World Cup rugby finals. Is that what we're looking at? And a Hogmanay heart attack. Marvellous. Yes, I wouldn't mind going myself, in actual fact. Stitch him up. Put him back on the ward. Finally, Mackenzie awoke with a little bit of a start. He cried out, "I'm alive! Oh, merciful God, I'm alive! Nurse, I'm alive!" The black nurse turned unimpressed. "Yes, Mr. Mackenzie, you are. We had a trauma crash unit here. Shooting 6 crash unit. All of the surgeons had to get out of bed to come and stitch you up. We found out there's actually virtually nothing wrong with you. Your screams and your enormous in, blood loss. Wasn't actually blood. Oh yes, there was a slight amount of pooling of blood, but most of it was what had seeped out of your clothing as red wine. Mouton cadet, by all accounts. So the gentleman next door tell me. The gentleman next door? Yes. They're standing by to, shall we say, interview you for disturbing the peace. You're joking. Not the police. The police. Do you mean, sister, the nurse? Nurse? I'll just let the police in. Well, have you told them I'm conscious? Of course I've told them. I don't. Oh, right. You've got a lot of explaining to do. Have I? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Now then, sir. Good morning. You're Mr. Mackenzie. Mr. Alistair Freeburn Mackenzie, I take it. Yes. Morning. Morning. This is Detective Stevenson, and I am Detective Parker. Just to let you know that we're going to now caution you. Okay? So anything that you might give will be taken down, perhaps given as evidence against you. I see. It sounds serious. Yes, it is. They don't usually call us unless it is. Now, yesterday, there's a crash team of surgeons being called, an ambulance, police cars, trauma units of all sorts have been called in the middle of the night to find you in a puddle of blood, seemingly. It now turns out that most of it is Mouton cadet. Yes. So, would you mind telling us what's happened? In your own words, if you don't mind. Well, I can't remember. No, I didn't think you would. If you remember anything. Well, I remember up until having a little squabble with somebody. Yes. Am I being charged? What? Oh, just at the moment, yes, you are. You're being charged with theft. Theft? Theft of what? I didn't steal anything. Ah. Well, obviously, then you didn't remember going to quite an exclusive, or shall we say, gate-crashing exclusive party on your way home on the Oval. Somebody's birthday party. No, I bet you didn't. Anyway, you lifted a very, very expensive bottle of wine that was there. You see, the person in question's a sort of is a vintage collector of ancient, well, not ancient, but rare wines. He's a connoisseur. That, it's just a bottle of wine. Just a bottle of Blanc to you. Not quite a bottle of Blanc, though. Because Mr. Mackenzie, it was a Mouton cadet, 1945, worth £17,500. Oh my God, you're joking. No, seems you have very, very expensive taste, although you're wearing it instead of drinking it. Yes, I hope you enjoyed it. Well, I didn't taste it, no. Still, you managed to burst it in some street brawl, rolling around on the floor. It was on your inside pocket of your Harris tweed coat. Oh dear. Yes, oh dear, oh dear. Another thing, we're also going to have to be charging you with, obviously, disturbing the peace, because you woke up half the neighbourhood. And what you didn't wake up, the other half, we woke up. I see. And your sparring partner. Yes, I think it was Crawford. Somebody. Crawford. So you do remember him. Oh, not really. We had a bit of a row. We had a singing contest and a pool contest and an arm wrestling contest and many other contests. I can't remember. My head is really banging. I bet it is. after running into a scaffolding pole. You've got a lump on there on the top of it, so I wonder you didn't fracture your skull. If your head wasn't like a Chubb safe, you'd have split the thing in two. Oh, it's really getting to pound. Can you ask the nurse for something? No, not until we've finished. You two beauties, we've since found out from video cameras and God knows what, that you've been barred from 3 different pubs, a restaurant, after falling over tables and disrupting everyone's meal. You fell backwards over one of the tables in the Ivy, a very tip-top restaurant, I might add. You've fallen backwards and done a virtual back swallow dive onto someone's birthday table. Smashed everything to smithereens. You owe for that too, by the way. Oh, dear God. Dear God. You ought to see what what were you doing standing on chairs? What were you trying to do? Give a speech? It looks like you were giving a speech or something. Anyway, you've fallen backwards onto their table and just about smashed the back of your head in two. Oh, it does feel really, really sore. I bet it does. Yes, you do owe quite a lot of money. There's some damage also at the Hotel Juvan. We were at the Hotel Juvan. There was not many places that you weren't at last night. So what happened at the Hotel Juvan? Well, apart from burning a Victorian snooker table with cigarettes all over, you were balancing cigarettes on there, just placing them on there, and they were burning back. It was taking you that long to take the shots. Yeah? You at one stage took 5 minutes. You burnt all the tables, and and then for some strange reason, I don't know what you were doing, it looked like you missed picking up your little pork, whatever, hors d'oeuvre, and you ate some chalk, a square block of chalk, and spat that out all over the table, instead of the hors d'oeuvre, of course. Did I? Oh, yes. And then you proceeded to hit the ball with such ferocity that, of course, it bounced straight back and hit you straight on the front of the head. That's why you've got that enormous egg on the front of your head there, apart from on the other side that's also gashed open through you falling backwards and forwards through your own plate glass window, your French windows on the patio. I fell through the patio windows. Oh, yes, that's why your hand's stitched up if you've not noticed. Oh, I didn't notice. My head's banging with such an extent I didn't notice. Oh, my God, my hands, my hand! Yes, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? Oh, my God, I can't believe it. No. Anyway, there's 10 stitches in that as well. That's where most of the blood came from, and mixed with the wine onto the patio. The patio. Not my patio. Well, who else's patio do you think it was? You've come crashing down the stairs backwards through your own plate glass windows onto the patio. Did I? And this is, we haven't finished with the Hotel Juvan yet. What do you mean? Well, because the ball hit you on the head, you got so enraged, you threw them all over the place and smashed the place to pieces. All their mirrors and God knows what. You've thrown balls. There's people being hit with balls and all sorts. Oh, I don't believe it. Well, do believe it. But, don't worry. The blame is going to be shared between you. What, is he to blame too? Oh, yes. Yes, you didn't just, fall around, just singularly. You were also wrestling and smashing tables to pieces everywhere you went. You were wrestling all the way. You were even, at one stage, I don't know where you got them from, but you got one boxing glove on, and he'd got one boxing glove on, and you were attempting to have a boxing match. And then he went and punched you as hard as he could with the wrong hand, and blacked your other eye. But he's now just on the top there, and it looks ridiculous. It's virtually, split wide open as well. Oh, dear God, yes. So a little bit of a blood-soaked scene, but can we just get back to the patio? Was there much blood on the patio? Oh, gallons of it. Well, let's say blood and red wine mixed on the marble, Carrera marble patio. Yes, on the Carrera marble patio, your patio. Oh, Christ. Oh, no, my God. Yes, you might say that. Anyway, you're under caution. We've got to go. We've been waiting half the morning for you to actually come to. Your wife's outside. My wife? You're joking? No. She's outside. Oh dear God. Listen, can you just hang about a little bit longer because no, we can't, Mr. Mackenzie. Sorry, but we've got to go. We don't do domestics anyway. We're detectives. PCs for domestics. Are there any PCs about? Mr. Mackenzie, it's your wife. I know it's my bloody wife. Jesus. You better stay. Mr. Mackenzie, we've got to go. You're a rugby playing man, hence why you've been 3 days watching the rugby. You're 6'2", weighing at nearly 300 pounds. Your wife is 4 feet tall with her hands in the air. Oh dear God, you don't know what she's like. You don't know what a banshee little dwarf that thing is. That's Irish. Yes, we gathered that. Belfast, by all accounts. Stay, please, please. I beg of you, stay. Good day, Mr. Mackenzie. And I suggest you grow a pair of you-know-what. Oh, dear Christ.